You're listening to TropicWaveRadio.net. Ride the power of the wave.
My guest for today has got in touch with us. He's on the line right now, Mr. Peter Max. Are you there, Peter?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, we made it.
John, love you. Nice to be with you again.
Thank you, buddy. Nice talking to you. How are you?
I'm good. Things are good. You know, New York is quite cold, and so I'm looking forward to being there with you guys, huh?
Oh, yeah. I miss New York so much. and I missed you. Oh, you were down here in Orlando last month, and I bowed out of a family thing a little early to run over and see you, and then I found out it was in a different part of town. And once I realized that, I knew I could never make it in time. So I'm sorry I didn't get to check you out over there. So next time you're in the Wentworth or Orlando, I'll definitely come by and visit you.
Well, hopefully we could get together. I hope you can come by this weekend, and I'd love to give you a hug.
Ah, well, you might just
take you for a Starbucks decaf or something.
Ooh, there you go. So I got a problem with that caffeine, then, do you?
Do you?
Well, they call me Java John.
Java John.
So I'll tell you what. This is rather just a slight bit surreal for me having you on the phone here. You were definitely an inspiration to myself in all my life, but as a child growing up in the '60s and in the '70s, and being artistic myself, your style and yourself has inspired my work throughout the years. And looking and reading your new book, The Art of Peter Max, it really blew my mind. A number of things that I learned about you that really correspond with things that I love in art. So I'd just like to open this up and just chat about these things or anything else that you want to chat with.
Sure.
That's okay with you.
I just love hanging out with you here.
Thank you. I noticed, there's a few stories that I saw in the book that I would like you to touch on. And I guess before I get into talking about the styles that we have in common that we've enjoyed, I love when the book refers to your childhood in Shanghai. And to me, that just seems so idyllic, some of the locations that you got to spend your youth in. And but they in the book was talking about, I guess, your first real experience, artistic experience with the trunk and the crayons.
The trunk?
The steamer trunk.
My mom used to have these steamer trunks, the kind you saw in the movies like Marlene Dietrich had years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They have they're kind of like a rippled front, and then they have the wood around them. They're quite large. They were certainly bigger than I was at the age of about 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
And one day my mom gave me some crayons, and in the room she had about 8 of these trunks. They took up a whole gigantic wall. And I was drawing with them and on the floor and everything, and then I tried to draw in the trunk just a little bit. And because it had like a rippled effect, it made like brr, 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 these sounds. So I loved more the sound effects than the colors. Goes to show you, I wound up to be a big jazz lover at the end. But so because I loved the sound, I drew all over the trunk just because of the sound, till I almost used up all the crayons for like a day and a half. And one day she walks in there, she goes, "Oh my God, my trunk!" And she got all upset, and then she started crying and laughing, and she said, "My little artist, my little artist." And she turned it all into something really amazing for me.
Yeah.
Rather than being upset,
she
said, "It's the greatest thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And all my life I grew up with those trunks, and she praised them, and she brought neighbors in and everything. And you know what it was so great about my mom? My mom was so enthusiastic and so complimentary to me about everything I did.
That's wonderful.
I don't know if you remember that piece in the book where we lived in a pagoda house. It was a 3-4-tier pagoda house, and we had 4 balconies on the second floor above a beautiful garden. And every morning my mom would put watercolors in one balcony. She would put crayons, another one, color pencil and color paper, another one, and maybe tubes and paint in the fourth. And then she said the magic word to me. She was there always with a housekeeper, and she'd say to me, the two of them, "Peter, pick any balcony you want, create whatever you want, make a big mess, and we'll clean up after you. Isn't that something?
That's
if a
beautiful.
parent could remember that is the greatest way of getting, because artists, young kid artists, children, don't want to draw a lot in paint because they're afraid they got to clean it all up.
That's true. That is true, and that's very special. And so, and also the reference to the calligraphers in the garden across. See, I'd never heard of them.
Yeah, those guys were wild. These were Oriental artists. I don't know if they were Chinese or they were Mongolian. It was a temple that was across the way from me, and every week or so there was a holiday, and they would have these gigantic. They looked like Chinese letters, big letters that maybe were 12 feet tall, that would be hanging off the temple. And one day I'm looking down from my balcony into the temple garden, and I see they were playing these little drums, and two guys carried out this huge piece of paper. They laid it out. They put little rocks on each corner so the thing doesn't fly away with the wind. And then some guy with the most skillful arms and legs would take a huge brush. You know what a watercolor brush looks like?
Sure.
Just imagine one 6 foot tall, where the hairs were like a foot, coming to a beautiful point, and he would rub it into some black water, and then kind of dry it up like a black paste. And then with 5, 6 beautifully controlled steps on the rice paper, he would do these gigantic strokes that were each 10 and 12 feet long, and he would do a big Chinese letter.
Wow.
And he would do 2, 3 of those, like a calligraphy with a brush bigger than him. And
Unreal.
It was the wildest thing I ever saw in my life. And I always used to know when they do this because they used to play certain drums before that, and a cymbal, boing, 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 like this, and I'd run to the window, and I'd look out. There they were.
And you're 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah, and I saw them do it 100 times.
How that's precious, is what that is.
Yeah, and when they made, how sometimes these amazing Chinese dancers they do these very deliberate steps, big long steps,
right,
without having to crunch the paper. So they were was like a half of a dance and half of a painter at the same time, was painting and making these steps, because it was very easy if you didn't do it carefully. The paper would get crumpled. And then as soon as they finished the drawing, they would lie there for about a minute in the sun. Then 2 people would pick it up, and they would lay down another big piece of paper. Paper was always maybe 7 by 8 feet, 9 feet, and was unbelievable.
So when I read that passage, then I go and I turn the page and I start looking at some of your work, and then it dawns on me that I can see the Oriental influence in your artwork for the first time, is when that connected to me, and even in the way you use your lines, and that was something that was always special to me, was the line more than anything else.
Yeah, and the line comes from just loving the line, loving the drawing, loving it.
Yeah,
and I've learned to love drawing, and how I started drawing a lot was. I went to an art school where there was this amazing art teacher, Frank Riley, a great Irishman, who, when he was my age, like in his early 20s, he went to the same art school that he taught in many, many years later.
Right.
And in the same classroom, in fact. So when he was in his 20s, and he studied with a guy by the name of George Bridgman, a very fantastic anatomist, a guy taught anatomy, a very renowned name, Bridgman. The Bridgman's books are in every art store. You can buy the Bridgman books even today. And there was a young student that sat there in class with him for 6.5 years. His name was Norman Rockwell. Isn't that my little Frank Riley, Norman Rockwell, and another great guy by the name of John Leindecker. 3 of these guys hung out together. They all became renowned in their own way. And one thing that Bridgman always had them do, they would come to class with stacks of paper, like 2 inches thick. And 20 minutes before, the model would take a stance on the platform where a model, male model, or female model, sometimes dressed, sometimes nude, sometimes with a cane, with a stick. Before they took the pose, these guys would scribble on the paper with a charcoal pencil, nonsense, total, like when you scribble a figure 8,
right?
100 figure 8s, one on top of the other, right? And I asked him once, why aren't they doing all this? He says, we want to loosen up our hand. It's like a jogger running every day for a couple miles.
Yeah.
He gets all his muscles going. He says we get all the muscles going, so when we need the little hand muscles, finger muscles, arm muscles, elbow muscle, wrist muscles, when we need those, we got them.
Right on.
Every day they would, and these guys would draw on maybe 30 pieces of paper before the class started.
I remember early, yeah. I remember early always having to do the circles and the egg shapes too.
Yeah.
And a lot of the art teachers would make you just do that over and over. You get the manila paper out and you just do it until you're limber.
Yeah, until you're limber. And
Yeah.
what happens after 2-3 months of doing this, all your little finger muscles and elbow muscles and wrist muscles, the skill is there. Now you can take it any which way you do. And I always tell young kids when they come to my art school, my art galleries, even fact this weekend it'll happen. There's always a couple parents bringing their kids.
Sure.
And what do you do? I says, get them a stack of paper, buy them 2-3 pounds of paper, and let them draw just total nonsense. Don't make real drawings.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to be good.
Yeah. Well, looking at, again, referring to your book, several things that really caught my eye that were similar between the two of us was when I was a little boy, I remember going up to the library in the school and rating all of the art books. And one of the ones that really caught my eye was Little Nemo in Slumberland.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just loved that book. I forget the artist's name now. His style was amazing.
Yeah.
And I just, when I saw that in the book, I said, man, that it inspired Peter as well. How cool is that? And also the love of the comic books.
Yes. These are the same things that touched me.
Yeah.
Because when I grew up in Shanghai, one day my father walked. He used to take me to his place of work. He had a small department store.
Yeah.
And my mom always said to him, Jacob, take Peter, once a week at least to work with you. And on a Saturday afternoon, he'd take me to work. And it was kind of raining and slightly out there, like drizzling just a little bit. And we were walking fast, and he's holding my hand. Come on, we got to get there. We were going to get wet. And there was a panhandler, a guy, like a Chinese guy, sitting on the floor, and he had on a big straw mat maybe 40, 50 little beautiful, colorful little books. And I saw these colors, and I wanted them. And my father said, not now, it's raining. And I remember I started to cry. He said, why are you crying? I said, I want these books. These books. He says, okay. So he went back, and he bought everything. He put it into 2 big paper bags, maybe 40 of those, and he paid him.
Hey, we need...
Hey, I'll continue later.
Yeah, we need to take a quick break. We'll pick this up when we come back. Okay, Peter?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to put you right there. We'll be right back with Peter Max in just a moment. And welcome back, folks. Java John here. You are listening to the acoustic record on tropicwaveradio.net. And this is the live lunch portion of the show. And it doesn't get much liver than to have a wonderful guest on the air with us, Mr. Peter Max. Peter, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, buddy.
There you are. Sorry to keep you holding that long. Before we went into the break, people might have missed the end of that story. You're out with your dad, and you wanted the stack of colorful books.
Right. We saw all these unbelievable books. My dad didn't want to buy them. It was raining. Finally, he went back, bought them for me. And when we went to his small department store, which was quite a large place, actually, even though it was a small department store, on a very big conference table, he opened up and poured all the books out from his bags. And there would be 40, 50 of them, and it turned out to be comic books. I thought they would all be Chinese books, but they were American comic books. And that's when I had my first love affair with American culture, because I really got to see this stuff.
Right.
And so the great thing was, after that, I got to see American movies. It turned out that a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, I'm about 8 years old, his father owned a movie theater, and every day after school I went to see movies. My mother was so great that way. She let me see the same film over and over again. I would see every film 4 or 5 times, and every film played 5 days in a row, and then they had a new film. So in a year I'd see about maybe 50, 60 films, at least 3-4 times each. Musicals, with Gene Kelly.
Sure.
I mean, all that stuff, Bugsby Berkeley with all the dancers. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then I fell in love with American jazz, which played on a Chinese station that was hosted by none other than the famous Tokyo Rose.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Excellent. I wanted to mention that when my first experience with you, I was in school, and we would go to the Burger King in South Florida, and they gave away book covers. It was the first time they would give away things to kids, and they were Peter Max book covers.
Wow.
And and I wished I had them, but that's when I first remembered finding out about your work and becoming a fan of your work. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's amazing. It's amazing because I remember doing them years ago for the Mead Paper Company.
Right.
They were
Yes.
sold all over the United States.
I remember now. It's saying Mead on them. Yes.
Mead Paper was a very big paper company, and I did a whole series of products with them.
Yeah.
And, as an artist, I always wanted to maintain a painter and a printmaker and so forth. And one day, GE came and wanted me to do some General Electric clocks. And I thought, wow, that sounds commercial to me. So I asked the guy, I said, can I make the clocks without the numbers? He says, you could do whatever you want. So I made these kaleidoscopes, and we knew where 3, 6, and 9 were, and 12. And so I did those, and then other companies came, and suddenly, before I knew it, there were 72 corporations that licensed me, only for me to find out later, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm an artist. I should go back to painting. But it was an amazing experience to have done that.
Well, and a lot of people would say that. They'd say, you don't sell whatever. But you know what? I think that opened you up to a whole bunch of people who came to love your work and your style. And then, as it reflects in the book, it also then allowed you to be much more freer to pursue whatever you wanted to pursue at that point, I would think.
That's right.
Yeah.
At one point I thought, gee, my God, I'm doing so many commercial things. I shouldn't be doing this. And how's the art world going to feel about it? And then when I gave it all up, it turned out that every museum in America wanted to do Peter Max show. So in some weird way, it helped the notoriety more than anything else. I got to be on the cover of Life magazine. It was an 8-page cover story, and suddenly Johnny Carson had me on there.
Yeah, I remember.
3 times, and Ed Sullivan did a 1-hour TV special. This would have never happened had I not done some of these commercial things that caused so much notoriety.
Sure.
So I'm still sometimes torn between the two. Of course, 99% of what I do is strictly drawing and painting now.
Right.
And just being in the studio painting, because I don't need to do the other stuff anymore. But it was so much fun when I did it.
Oh, yeah. And, strictly for myself, I had these visions when I was young, and I let them slip away, and I didn't focus on my artwork. Till years later, I only recently had started doing more stuff than I should have been doing all my life, and I just found out that a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, gave you a copy of a book that I illustrated. Robin Krasny of Robin and Eddie, she gave you the River Dragon book.
Yes, I remember that.
Those are my pictures.
Yes, I remember that. They were great, man.
Thank you.
It's really nice. I know exactly who did them. Isn't that funny?
And when she told me the other day, actually Eddie emailed me and told me, Peter's got a copy of the book, and I thought, I remember Robin telling me that, and that's very, very special to me that you have a piece of mine. Thank you.
Yeah. It was, it's nice. It's nice to draw and paint, isn't it? It's a place. You know how some people just love musicians, love music.
Yes.
It's something. It's so intangible. You can hear it, but you can't fold it. You can't put it in your pocket. You can't. It's just like something that starts, and 3 minutes later it's over.
Mm-hmm.
In art, it's also something. The doing of art is sometimes more fun than seeing it finished. Seeing it finished is nice. Seeing it on the wall. But the doing of it, seeing it unfold, is so fantastic. That's
very true, and a lot of people don't understand sometimes that when I tell them a lot of times, and I've seen this reading about you in your book, that a lot of times I don't know what's going to end up on the paper. Maybe I'll have a concept, but it's mostly a feeling inside that just kind of comes out.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember I was commissioned to do a portrait of Jesus for someone once, and I had put all these day glow bright colors into it, and I thought, I don't know if this is right or not, so I took it to a church and I asked the Mother Superior. I asked to speak to her, and I showed it to her, and I said, is this is it too psychedelic? What do you think? And she turned and she looked at me and she says, son, Jesus loves all colors. And I said, so I knew that.
Yeah, of course you knew that, but you wanted to hear
it. Speaking of music, see, I have two loves. I love art and I love music, and I've spent a large part of my life doing portraits of musicians. I've owned a venue. Now I do the radio show, and in reading the book, I see that you are also the lover of music, which has to be obvious in your artwork to most people.
I think it just goes together, John, because it comes from the same place. When I paint, I have a very large painting room. My studio is about, each floor is 10,000 feet, but the painting area where I paint is about 5,000 feet.
Beautiful.
And I've got a guy sitting there. He's 31 years old, blonde, blue-eyed kid, and he used to love hip-hop. He used to love every genre of music, and he brings music to the table, and he plays it to me, and he looks at me, and I give him a nod, yes, no, yes, and then he just plays it over and over again, and that's the backbeat to what I paint constantly. I can't even paint unless there's some good music on. I put on either a jazz station or a classic rock station. Yeah. Or sometimes even I dabble in headbanger stuff just to see what's new.
Sure.
It's all good stuff.
That's right. So he's basically you have your own personal DJ in the studio.
Personal DJ.
I love that.
Yeah. And
if that ever opens up, let me know.
Maybe one day we should do something together where I send you an hour's worth of music.
Oh yeah.
In my studio. It'll be it'll transform. The other day someone sent him. Today they send it on a DVD.
Yeah.
5,400 dance tunes.
Wow.
And he plays them for me from his little machine. And I'll nod yes, I'll nod no. And then the yeses became 220, and the no's were over 4,000. So I discount. I chucked away maybe 80-90% of it. But now when he plays that other 10-15% that I picked, oh my God, do I love it, and can I paint to it? So he's playing stuff that I've chosen. Of 5,000 tunes, I've chosen about 100, 200 tunes.
Cool. And
then he plays them, and today you can mix them where one goes right into the second.
Oh, yeah.
He's got all that equipment.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do with
Yeah.
So, well, speaking of sending me songs to do that, maybe next time you've got a weekend in Orlando and then West Palm Beach, we should bring you right in the studio.
Yeah, and we'll play and talk about creativity and art. And
we can put you on the webcam.
Yeah.
You can be sketching while I'm playing music. Anything you want to do. Anything you want to do. Let me just put that out there for you.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Music is such a backbeat for art. It's beyond belief. And most of my friends who are artists say the same thing.
Yeah. It's true.
Some guys just need classical music. Yeah. Some guys love rock and roll. It's just always something. But I can't be painting in a room strictly just with no music.
Right.
It's just it's empty.
I agree. And I want to go back to the classic. I'd like to touch on some of your new work, but I read a passage in the book from the, I don't know, was it your cosmic period or pre-cosmic period? There was a little story in there about the Be In poster.
Oh, the Be In. This is coming up now. The Summer of Love. It's going to be the 40th anniversary. Yeah. Let me tell you what happened. I brought a very famous Swami to America. Swami Satchidananda. Many people know of him. Right. A renowned yogi from India who passed away, unfortunately, at 89 about 2 years ago.
Wow.
He spent 40 years in America. I brought him here in 66. And in 67, which is 40 years ago now, right, coming up.
Yes.
One of my buddies, Kenny Green, said to me, typical hippie, hey, man, man, the summer solstice is coming, man. Wouldn't it be cool, man, if you did a poster and we bring people to Central Park? That's what it was, a simple request, no big deal. And I asked my printer, because I was very successful with my posters, if he would print for me a little poster. He says, Peter, I'll print whatever you want because I owe you. So if you want to do a little poster, I can print 10, 20,000 miniature posters. Let's say they would be about 5 by 7 inch little ones, right?
Yeah.
So maybe 10 on the sheet. So I back then you couldn't set type like you do today on a computer.
Right.
So I cut out letters from Vogue magazine, and I wrote BE-IN, and then below it Central Park, and I gave the day, the summer solstice day. And what happened was my printer prints up 10 or 20,000 of them. I give it to my buddy Kenny Green, and he gives them to about 40 kids to distribute up at Columbia University, downtown. I mean, he put somebody in every niche in New York City. And 3 days go by, and now it's Sunday morning, and my friend Freddie calls me up, a hippie buddy of mine. I'm like in my middle 20s, and Freddie's like that, and he goes, "Hey man, are you coming to the Be-In, man?" I go, "The what?" He goes, "The Be-In, man. Your poster said Be-In." "Oh, the Be-In." Because I didn't know come to. It could have been, are you coming to the come to, right?
Exactly.
But it was the Be-In Central Park on such and such a date. And that's how the Be-In started. And what happened, that little poster filled up Central Park with 400,000 people. 400,000 people came from every walk of life celebrating the summer.
That is beautiful.
It was beyond belief. When I went there were yogis, there were acrobats, there were magicians, there were guys with cats on their head. I mean, you wouldn't believe the kind of people that showed up. It was beyond belief.
And it was just a big peaceful love-in. It was a Be-In. Yeah.
And at the end, I remember, I think it was Mayor Lindsay at the time, he made an announcement that when everybody left, they took all the garbage with them.
Yeah.
Like there was no mess, not millions or thousands of pieces of paper. Yeah. Everybody picked it up and left. And it was a completely unorganized. All I did is do the poster. That's it.
And so there was the birth of the Inns.
The Be-In, right?
Yeah, and then after that, they had the Human Be-In and the Sit-Ins, and all the Inns came after that.
Right,
yeah.
right. And this was a summer of love.
That's beautiful.
Then California did one. It was wild.
Yeah. Cool. I had someone the other day, from the Electric Prunes. He asked me, he says, it's the 40th anniversary of the Summer of Love, and I don't see any events going on. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the times that were then have now graduated to really, that's why, lots of people today, they're into the anti-global warming.
Right.
And they're doing animal protection. And, there's a lot of work going on in all these regions. You could see even Al Gore, right, an ex-vice president of the United States, makes a movie about this. And everybody's talking about it. It's front page, it's mainstream. And these were ideas back then that just started.
That's right.
And, I remember there were some animal groups, that took care of animals, like if there was an animal, let's say it was lost, or somebody, got a farm animal, and they let it live forever.
Right.
These organizations back then would have a budget of maybe $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a year. Today, these same organizations have $20 and $40 million budgets.
Mm.
It's all over the United States. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. You mentioned that, and I would like to. I got to take another break. Would you mind coming back for a short little? Because I would like to talk about some of your posters for the Protect the Planet series celebrating Earth Day, and some of the ones down here that are your art for charity and stuff like that. Maybe we can touch on a few of those things before time to go. Okay, very cool. We are on a line here with Peter Max today. And I'm having a great time chatting with you, Peter. I hope you're enjoying yourself, too.
Oh, I'm loving it.
Good. We're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, we'll discuss Peter's book and some of the stuff that Peter's doing through his website for charity, and maybe some other events. Talk about some other things that Peter's got going on. I am Java John. This is The Acoustic Record, and we will be back in just a moment. And welcome back, friends. I am Java John. You're listening to The Acoustic Record on TropicWaveRadio.net. We've got a very special guest with us today. Peter Max is on the line. Hello, Peter.
Hey, buddy.
All right. So, as I mentioned before the break, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on some of these posters that you have on your website here, these beautiful Celebrate Earth Day 2007, the Protect Our Planet poster series. Is there something you can tell me a little bit about these here?
Well, I got involved in environmental things forever now, and it's like having studied yoga, and I'm a vegetarian. In fact, I'm a vegan. A vegan
Yes,
is like
sir.
totally vegetarian. I've been a vegan now for 7 years, and I only eat at places like Whole Foods, and nowhere to get the greatest vegan food. Whole Foods, by the way, is like the place. Do you have one over there?
Oh, yeah.
You guys have one. John Mackey just acquired Wild Oats, the guy who owns Whole Foods.
Oh, yeah.
He just added another 100 more stores. He's unbelievable. But I'm into the whole environmental movement. I'm friends with Al Gore. I'm friends with all the environmental people. I do fundraisers for all of them.
Sure.
And very, very strong in animal protection. That's one of my main things, is to make sure that in my lifetime I can move that thing forward a little bit. To bring protection to animals. It's like the most important thing, because somehow mankind has just forgotten that they're also just living beings like you and I.
Yes.
They just look a little bit different, but they love their little children. They love life. They love sitting at the window looking out, and they're not to be treated the way we treat animals. And it's educational. We have to teach children and grown-ups alike. Because at the bottom line, and at the bottom of it, everybody wants to be kind to animals, but sometimes we forget.
That's true. Very good. So if folks go to petermax.com, they can see these the different posters for Celebrate Earth Day.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Protect Our Home. Is each one of these a series, or is it just each?
They are. Some of them came out in 2s and 3s,
Okay.
like little series. Other ones are one of a kind.
Protect Our.
I do patriotic liberty posters and flag posters and ecological posters, and plus just fine art posters.
Yes.
On petermax.com, and people go to petermax.com. They can also, get the book, The Art of Peter Max, or actually you can buy one at Barnes & Noble Borders and bring it to the gallery this weekend, and I'll sign it. I sign my books for everybody. If 100 people walked in, I take my time. Even if it takes an extra hour, I sign everybody's book. I just love doing this.
It is a beautiful book, too.
Yeah, thank you. It's, the best-selling art book in the history of Abrams Book, the biggest art publisher in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Who would have known?
I tell you what's real interesting for me is to have watched your career, and it's because like you said, back in the cosmic period, you were everywhere. But now it's every few years, there's Peter Max at the Woodstock doing this. Oh, there's Peter Max doing the Grammys. Oh, cool. Oh, there's Peter Max with with PETA, and it's just wonderful to I'll tell you what's really intriguing for me about this book. Okay, I grew up, as I said, loving art and going to the libraries and reading about all the artists that I enjoyed and their childhoods, Da Vinci and his kid, and all that stuff. But I never knew your background because, there wasn't a book about Peter Max in 1967 that told us, your background. So it's very interesting to find out where you come from and then watched you in the past 45 years to where you've come to now. And it is very, very, to me, very interesting to see how your style developed from the early printmaking posters and such, and then up into, and even the kaleidoscope stuff is just gorgeous, and then up into the paintings today, which sometimes reflect heavily back on an older style, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, sometimes it's amazing. It just keeps on going around. The key for young artists, if they're listening, is to just draw and paint every day, make it a passion, enjoy it, and then the world will come to you. Whatever you think about a lot starts coming to you. It develops for you. So if you like art and you look at other artists' work and you're creative all the time, you just take out a pen and draw a little bit, and don't be shy about it. Just do it more and more and more. Let it take you over. and then suddenly you're involved in the art world. You're just involved in it. And that's what's happened to me. I have a staff of 105 in my studio by Lincoln Center, and it's now, about like 12:30 almost. And I usually get in about 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, and I stay until 9, 10 at night. And I love coming in late because I sleep late, because I stay up till 2 in the morning working, drawing, painting. So, but I can't wait to get there, and at night I don't want to leave. I love it so much.
I could appreciate that, and I know myself. If I hit the pen and the paper, there's no going to bed at midnight or 11 o'clock. You know what I mean?
It's an amazing thing.
It is.
Really is.
It is.
It's really. Sometimes you think like, where does it come from?
Yeah.
And I always explain it. Having studied yoga a little bit, and when they talk about the universe many years ago, when the Bible was written, they called it creation, right?
Right.
Creation. The whole universe is creation. Like God created it all, and we call it creation. And we, little people, and maybe other animals too, we're all little miniature creatives, tiny creatives that belong to creation, and it wants to keep on creating. I mean, when you just look around you, look what we've created. All these buildings and ships and cars and skyscrapers and endless. I mean, you can stand where you are standing right now, John. There must be within 20 feet of where you stand must be like 1,000 inventions, right? That
True.
You're looking at.
True.
Everything, right, from the lights to your equipment, your radio equipment. I mean, the fact that we're talking, we're like 2,000 miles apart right now. We're talking like we're sitting in a room.
Mm-hmm.
And man is creative. Mankind loves creativity. Animals are creative too, but we don't see it. But we are certainly a creative bunch. I love living in all. You want to hear one wild one? That
Sure.
My friend Gary Nall. You heard of Gary Nall? He lives in Florida.
Yes.
And he's a very great, health guy and scientist, very smart man. And he the other day I heard him say something, and I've heard it once or twice before, so I know it must be real. And when you take, John, a little exhale of your breath, just a normal exhale, not like a big one, but just a normal exhale. So maybe you exhale as much air as maybe is in a tall glass, right?
Right.
That's what you exhale. Now, the amount of atoms that are in this one little exhale, oxygen atoms, there's so many of them that if you converted every atom that was in this one glass of water, a glass of air, right?
Right.
And you converted it to beach sand, how much beach sand do you think there would be in a single breath? Would it fill up your building? Would it fill up a square block?
Who knows?
You want to hear the most mind-boggling thing?
Okay.
It would fill up the whole United States 9 feet high.
From a single breath.
From a single breath.
That's how many atoms you're exhaling.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you converted every atom
to a grain of sand.
One grain of sand, it would fill up the United States 9 feet high.
Wow.
I can't stop thinking about it. It's like it just blows me away. It's like better than any joke, right? It's like It's just beyond belief just to think about that.
So in these atoms now we can really go out there now. So in these atoms, then having been inside of me, now that atom has a piece of me, right?
Right.
Okay, so now it goes out, and it's got to go into somebody else.
That's correct.
Maybe this is how. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's why they say, like today, when you take a breath, you may be breathing in like a couple molecules of Jesus Christ, or Caesar, or Washington.
And this might also be the key to the cosmic consciousness. You think?
Cosmic consciousness. Yeah.
I've always loved that concept.
You know how many cells you have in your body?
I don't know.
Just give a guess. Just come up with a number.
God, billions?
Billions? Okay. 1,000 thousand is a million.
Right.
1,000 million is a billion.
Okay.
1,000 billion is a trillion. We have 100 trillion cells in our body. Every human being has 100 trillion cells. And every single cell does about 1 billion functions per second. Can you imagine that?
Not really.
It's like, these are the things that I love to wonder and think about. I think about them, and I'm publishing a whole series of books now. We're in about second year of developing them. I've got maybe 25 little books, and they're soon going to be published. I'll make sure you get them.
Yeah.
And many of them have that kind of stuff in it.
Cool.
It's the stuff that I stay up at nights and wonder about and think about. I love it.
Well, in this book here, in The Art of Peter Max, it touches on when you were younger, and I'm sure it's still today, your love with the universe, with outer space, astronomy and stuff. Well, that's just, I guess, the same. You could imagine and think on the same level.
Yeah,
the endlessness of.
Yeah, that's what got me into it. We have in our little Milky Way galaxy we are part of. Like our sun is one of several hundred billion suns. So like our sun is one of several hundred billion suns in the Milky Way, and there's several hundred billion galaxies like ours in the universe.
Oh,
and then my friend Michio Kaku, who's an enormous scientist, he's an astrophysicist, says, Peter, there are many universes. You think we thought for many years there's just one universe.
Right.
There are thousands, and there could be millions of universes. Millions of universes with 300-400 billion galaxies, which each contain 300-400 billion suns. And, every sun contains dozens of planets and millions of asteroids that are maybe the size of, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine?
So do you think there's any other life out there?
I am 1 billion% sure there is.
There's got to be. How could there not?
So much. Yeah. How could it all just happen on here?
Yeah.
If God made it, He made it in the whole universe. Whoever and however this thing happened, it's happening all over the universe. It may not be on every planet. Not maybe every planet is geared for that.
Right.
But so many are.
It has to be the odds.
Oh, the odds are always in our favor.
Yes.
And we're struggling on this planet today with our wars in Iraq and our wars we've had in the last 40, 50 years. But mankind, I think the wish inside mankind is to really be in harmony with the rest of the planet, and one day, God willing, in harmony with the rest of the universe.
Yes, I think so too. That's at the core. Core. Let's see here. I want to. We got about 4 more minutes, Peter.
Good.
And
now we could make the 4 minutes last a lifetime, or it'll happen right in 5 seconds.
I'm ready to make it last. Let's see. I did want to mention again to folks that you will be here in Florida this weekend in Boca Raton at the Wentworth Gallery in Town City Mall Saturday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I've got details on that for folks. Actually, they could call 561-338-0804 if they need any directions or details or anything on that.
Yeah, or they can go to petermax.com.
That's true, and everything's there.
Yeah, everything is there. And don't forget to pick up a book at Barnes & Noble or Borders called The Art of Peter Max. I hope they have some left for you, and then I'll sign it for you with a little sketch.
Cool. I noticed that there are a number of Wentworth galleries. Do they all host gatherings with Peter?
Yes, he's amazing. Mike Mahoney owns about 35 of them. Him and his 2 sons or 3 sons. They're just amazing people, and he's got them on main streets and places. He's got them in shopping malls. And so I do about 35 gallery openings a year, about maybe 5 or 10 of them with him and another 20 with some other people. And then I have every year about 5, 6, sometimes 7 one-man museum shows. And they're so much fun. That's when my whole life is on display.
Nice.
And a museum show. I once had a museum show at the Hermitage at the invitation of Gorbachev.
Right.
In St. Petersburg.
Yes.
And opening night, John, 14,500 people. I was shocked because I was telling Gene, my associate, I says, Gene, man, I hope there'll be a few people show up. It'll be so embarrassing if nobody does. He says, I looked outside the door. It looks like there's a couple hundred people. Little did I know that the line went around the corner and continued for 15 blocks.
Oh, man.
It was wild.
Unbelievable. So you've certainly had a lot of wonderful experiences in your life, and that's great. I love it. It shows to me in your work. That's what I love.
I'm grateful.
That joy comes out in your work.
Yes.
Peter, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I don't know for sure if I'm going to get to see you this week, but I'm going to try.
I'm going to look for you either way. Maybe I look hard enough and you show up.
There you go.
Yeah, and you're giving some posters away too, right?
Yes, we are. We have. We've been giving away, and I've got a few more that we'll give away. And after this next commercial break, I'll let the folks call in.
Java John, I love your name, and I love you. Thank you so much for having me.
Love you too, brother. Thanks for calling.
Buddy.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. All right. How cool is that? Peter Max. And, that was weird. Okay. Peter Max in Boca Raton this weekend, and he actually remembered my book. I like that.
You're listening to www.tropicwaveradio.net. Ride the power of the wave.